Well, welcome to the Building Code Forum, and how are you today? Let's talk about Pennsylvania construction codes, and just a little bit about contractors in Pennsylvania and contractor licensing. So let's go down memory lane and figure out a couple things that happen in Pennsylvania. First of all, prior to April 9th or April 8th, I think it was April 9th of 2004, Pennsylvania did not have a statewide building code at all. So then what happened was in 1999, they passed Act 45 of 1999, which established the basic requirements for the Uniform Construction Code, and it has been altered at least 13 times since then. Now, this gave them basically 5 years to put out a product when they passed this in 1999. But before it ever went active, the first thing they did was they had Act 43 of 2001, and that established an electrical exemption for residential construction based on religious beliefs. So before it was even enacted, they already started putting in these different changes in statutes. Then an Act 13 came out in 2004, and that established the 1992 Cabo 1 and 2 Family Dwelling Code, stairway, tread, and riser requirements as the UCC standards for residential stairways, and mandating this $2 surcharge for each building permit. All right, what they essentially did in Act 13 is they said, hey, we don't like the stair requirements for the ICC, so we're going to go back to this 1992 Cabo. And that was really brought on by the modular home industry, who said, hey, we've been building these homes like this. We're going to have a hard time making steps work. So what did the state do? Yeah, they listened and they let them go. Then really one of the biggest ones that came out was Act 92 of 2004, and that was an act that amended several residential code requirements of the Uniform Construction Code. This is the one that really gutted it a lot. Basically, it comes down to this. If you have a home in Pennsylvania that is in a municipality, one of the well over 2,000 municipalities in Pennsylvania, but it's a municipality that didn't have any previous building code, and many did not, and previous requirements prior to April 9th, 2004, then you could essentially completely gut your house, put a brand new roof, all brand new electric, plumbing, mechanical, everything. As long as you don't touch anything structural, you can completely rewire your home without having to pull a permit or get any inspections at all. And that was the one that really gutted it significantly. Then they came out with Act 230 in 2004, and let's not even go over these. Then Act 95 in 2005, which they went ahead and made more changes to it. So instead of just adopting these, the state legislators were lobbied by contractors, and they just kept moving forward and forward and forward with all this crap. Then Act 108 in 2006, okay, which gave it excluded from the UCC requirements the installation of aluminum or vinyl siding on existing residential and commercial buildings. And then it allowed the building code administrator to actually grade lumber, which to me is just insane, all right? Then they came out with Act 157 in 2006, Act 9 in 2007, Act 39 in 2007, then Act 106 in 2008. Then, of course, what happened? Act 1 of 2011, which means that they took 3 years off from, making a cluster out of this. Then also in Act 1 of 2011, besides starting some reporting issues and advisory councils for reviewing things, they also said, wait, you know what? We're going to have an exemption for automatic fire sprinkler systems for certain floors that apply retroactively back to 2010. So they just really made a cluster of it. Then they had Act 35 of 2017, which means, hey, they took 6 years off from screwing things up. And then Act 36 of 2017. Now we are 5 years later, and it looks like they're going to be messing with a little bit more of those things. So essentially, if you are in Pennsylvania, the ICC codes apply. They're currently under the 2018 I codes for the most part. They tried to put Chapter 11 in for accessibility, but that was thrown out in court, and I don't even know what they're on at this point. So you're going to be under the 2017 National Electric Code and then all of the I codes and so on and so forth. Now, they even had more problems with this because back in 2006 was the last year that the IRC had wall bracing requirements. So after these wall bracing requirements were changed in the '09 code, it went from 3 pages to like 28 pages, which was really a good thing because those 3 pages for wall bracing in the IRC, it was difficult to understand. It didn't really break everything down for you, which forced you to go to an architect or engineer to meet some specific standards. However, because so many people were, and when I say people, I mean inspectors were grandfathered, they had not a clue what they were talking about. So the majority of municipalities never enforced anything with wall bracing. Now, I'm not saying none of them did, because the ones that I was in, we did, and we caught hell for it. However, 2009, when it expanded to 28 pages, all the contractors were like, oh, 3 pages good, 28 pages bad. And they went to the state legislators, had their little golfing events, and what did they do? They said, okay, no problem. We're going to eliminate that, and we're going to go back to the 2006, which was extremely stupid on the part of the contractors, because the wall bracing component in 2009 IRC, it broke everything down, it explained it in an easier way, and it gave you methods that were prescriptive that you could use without having to go to an architect or engineer. But that's not the way the contractors saw it, because they kept their caveman mentality. That's what happened. Okay. So unfortunately, the builders and the contractors have a very large presence in the state. And because they have a large presence in the state, they could essentially do whatever the hell they want, because they go to all of your local government, not local government officials, but all your local state reps and state senators, bend their ear and tell them how horrible this is, because they're pretty much too ignorant to want to understand things. And then they get the law changed, which is why we've had these 13 or 14 changes that were brought in at the legislative level that should have never happened, because it should have been handled solely by the advisory council for this. Okay, so now let's talk about the contractors. Contractors are not licensed in Pennsylvania, period. There is no statewide licensing whatsoever in the state of Pennsylvania. Okay, let me repeat that. The state of Pennsylvania does not have any statewide licensing of building contractors, home builders, remodelers, plumbers, electricians, mechanical contractors, all right, masons, none of that. They don't have it. What happens is that some of the larger municipalities, the city of Wilkes-Barre, the city of Scranton, okay, some of the bigger cities like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, they have always had some level of competency-based licensing. So if you want to work in those larger cities, those more progressive cities who've recognized these problems decades ago, in order to work there, you have to be licensed. But what Pennsylvania does have is a registration system. And all it does is register. It doesn't certify you. It doesn't license you as a contractor. There's nothing competency based whatsoever. It's simply a registration process that is, ready for this, only for those that are doing remodeling. When they came out with this registration process, it actually didn't even count at all any of the home builders. So the home builders got a free pass on this because they think that they are above the law. However, if a home builder wants to remodel someone's home, they're going to have to get registered with the state. So when you see all these vans driving around in pickup trucks saying that they're licensed and insured, then they hopefully are licensed somewhere in a larger city. But you don't have to be. And let me give you a great example of this, because all these guys that aren't licensed in these big cities, and this makes up the majority of contractors, they just work in the 2,000 plus other municipalities that do not require licensing in Pennsylvania, or that don't require licensing at all. So they just don't work in those big cities because they're not licensed there. They can't get licensed. So they make an entire career without having to cross the border into a competency-based licensing system. So I'm going to tell you how easy it is. Take your 18-year-old daughter, 18-year-old son who has no experience as an electrician whatsoever. Have them call up your local insurance agent and said, hey, I want to be an electrician. I need to have some insurance. I need some minimum liability insurance. So you call up your insurance agent at 9 o'clock in the morning. They work some numbers, get back to you for $400 or $500 a year. You pay it. They give you what you need. All right. Now you have your certificate of insurance within an hour or two. Okay. Then from there, you go online and you apply for $50 for 2 years. You apply to be registered as a contractor in the state of Pennsylvania. They'll do a little background check, very minimal, to make sure you're not like a serial rapist or a murderer. And poof, pay your $50, show proof of insurance, and you are registered as a contractor in Pennsylvania, and you don't have any experience whatsoever. So while you're waiting for that system to cook online, go ahead and stop at Staples, get yourself some business cards made in an hour. While you're waiting for your business cards to be printed out in an hour, go to Lowe's, go to Home Depot, go to your local hardware store and buy yourself some tools so that now you at least look official. So now you have some tools. Go back, pick up your business cards at Staples or wherever you want to get them made in an hour, and you wake up the next morning and you are a registered contractor, electrician in the state of Pennsylvania, and you don't even have to know the least amount, anything about electricity. You don't even have to know where an electrical panel is, and you are in business in Pennsylvania, because they are one of the few states that are really pathetic and don't recognize the importance of licensed contractors. So that's about it in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is essentially the wild, wild west, and all of this lack of insurance, well, let's not say insurance, all of this lack of licensing and this lack of good codes that are well put together and not manipulated by the state legislator. And again, you have no licensing. So in the majority, in 90 plus 95% of Pennsylvania, you don't have to have any licensing. And in some towns, you don't even need to pull a permit to completely gut and change your house, as long as you don't change something that is, quote, structural. All right, that's it. This is the Building Code Forum. Please like, please subscribe for more information like this. And listen, have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.